Entertainment Extra continues with movie critic Richard Crouse on News Talk 1010.
He's the little boy that Santa Claus forgot, and goodness knows he didn't want a lot. He sent a note to Santa for some soldiers and a drum. It broke his little heart when he found Santa hadn't come.
Hey, movie lovers and citizens of Earth, welcome back to Extra, Entertainment Extra. I'm Richard Crouse. Terry Hart has toddled off back to TMN, but in the studio, I'm very pleased to be joined by Mitchell Kezin. He's the director of a film called Jingle Bell Rocks, which is playing at the Bloor Cinema in Toronto. It opened yesterday and runs through the weekend. Come down and check it out if there's anything that you think you need to learn about Christmas music, because it's all in here. But the thing that really took me about this movie, Mitchell, is that it's not a collection of like oddball Christmas songs sung by oddball artists or, you know, kind of guys that never leave their basements who are collecting this stuff. There's a little bit of that, which is, listen, I'm all for it. I'm a big-time collector of Christmas music myself. But there's a through line. You sort of get to the root of why everyone seems to want to collect this Christmas music that appears in the film. So let's start there.
Okay.
What is it? I can tell you, and I will tell you after, what brought me to it. But what brought you to it? Because it was a little more emotional than I thought it might be.
Right. And that's, I think, what's surprising most folks who have seen the film is that it has a depth that grows on them as they stick with the film. I won't tell you, I won't reveal how the film opens, but it's a quirky little opening, and then the film gets a bit richer and richer as you meet each of the characters and the artists featured in the film. For me, it began at a very young age. I didn't even know this until I was several years into making the movie, and when I was asked what was motivating me and I thought it through, I remembered that when I was about 5 years old, there was we had a Nat King Cole record, as most families in the 60s did, but it was a stranger one. It was called The Magic of Christmas with Children, and it had a lot of odd little ditties on it, and one of the strangest, and I would say saddest songs, is one called The Little Boy That Santa Claus Forgot, and it's a rarely played tune that Nat recorded about a little boy who is fatherless and alone at Christmas time, and because of this, and for reasons that aren't explained in the song, Santa passes him by. And the thought of that as a 5-year-old was just terrifying to me. I thought, oh my God, how could Santa not come visit you? What could you possibly do
How
wrong?
could you be so evil?
How could that be? And why was the child's father not around? And I came from a family of divorced parents, and my father also wasn't around much, and so I really related to this song, and so much so that I hope there's time for me to give this long-winded answer.
Sure.
But, I recognize myself in this little boy, and I didn't, because I was so young, I didn't quite understand that this was actually a recording.
Right.
I thought that, like Santa Claus, Nat King Cole had some omniscient perspective on my life and was observing me, and he was singing about me and my situation and my circumstance. And it was me who was going to be passed by. So I used to ask my mother to play the song over and over and over again, hoping somehow that the story would change. And I'd discover maybe that the boy's father would come home, or my dad would come home, and I wouldn't be punished because he wasn't around. And the song had just resonated so deeply with me without my even realizing it at the time as a 5-year-old boy. So it was only years later that I recognized that was the root of where I first felt a really deep connection to a Christmas song.
And it's interesting, and I don't want to give away anything here. I'll talk about this very carefully, but there's a catharsis involving this song that makes up the film's finale that I thought, as a music lover, I'll call myself a music geek, and someone who has collected Christmas music for 30 years and all sorts of other musics for longer than that, I thought must have been, for you, one of the high points maybe ever in life.
It was remarkable, and I appreciate you're not giving it away.
We're not going to give away the end.
Because one reviewer has, and I was really choked.
Yeah, no, you don't want to give away the end of this, but...
sorry.
You don't want to give away the end of the movie, but it is important to note that this just isn't a movie about people who collect unusual records, and it's not a lot of shots of shop meets and swap meets and that kind of thing. It's a much different kind of film than that, but it does at its core have a basis in Christmas music. I started collecting all sorts of Christmas music because I worked in bars in malls for years in the 80s. And Christmas music then would start on November 1st. That's late these days.
Yeah,
now it would,
sure.
typically it starts a little bit earlier. And so for 8 hours a day, I'd stand behind the bar and I would listen to the same 40 minutes of Christmas music over and over and over and over and over again. And I thought there has to be something out there other than Stars on 45 and, Bing Crosby. And when I started to dig, I started to find things. But I wanted to talk to you about something that really resonates with me. Back in those days, pre-internet days, I would hear about something. I would hear that James Brown has a Christmas record. Never heard a note of it, but I would hear somewhere. I would read about it in a record collector's magazine or something. And then I would spend years looking for it. I would write letters to people in Australia. I eventually found that record, and it's fantastic. It is still one of my favorite Christmas records of all time.
Absolutely.
But it took me 7 years to find it. Now I think that some of the fun has been taken out of this a little bit because the records that are out there, I can go on my computer and on eBay, all of a sudden I've got, 2 minutes later, I've got the record winging its way to me. And that for me has taken some of the joy out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. The hunt is not quite the hunt it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, not only can you find them on eBay, you can find them for download for free on many Christmas music collectors, music blogs and websites. I mean, it's two-sided, two sides to that. One is that it's nice that people are able to hear this music finally. It's being shared more readily, and that folks who would never otherwise be exposed to it can access it readily. But for us collectors, the people who really love that hunt, who love to dig, who love to find that treasure that is just impossible to get a hold of, it's completely, that whole aspect of collecting Christmas music or collecting any kind of music is gone. And I lament that. It's too bad. But, there are still lots of records that I've come across and found on record hunts that I would not have otherwise found any other way. The Birmingham, Alabama is a perfect example that we feature in the movie. Yeah. That was incredible. There was a guy who came, a record dealer from West Virginia, who brought 10 boxes. Each one held 145s of strictly, completely obscure Christmas music. And Andy Surzan, one of the legendary collectors in the movie. And
he buys a record for a dime or something. Yeah. That's fantastic. Called Winter's Daddy? No, what's it called?
Winterman.
Winterman.
Great tune by an artist named Clarence Reed, who you may know better as Blowfly.
Yeah.
Amazing. The guy had such a great early career, and I don't understand why he gave that up. He's a beautiful songwriter, and that song is one of the Stone Cold classics and featured in the film.
It really is. And if you aren't able to get out to a record swap or anything like that, it's available on iTunes. Check it out, download it, pay your money and download it because it's fantastic. My guest in studio, Mitchell Kezin. His film Jingle Bell Rocks is at the Bloor Cinema in Toronto right now and soon will be seen on TVO. Check your local listings. It's somewhere just before Christmas to really put you in the Christmas spirit. When we come back, there's more about Jingle Bell Rocks on Extra Entertainment Extra.
It's Extra Entertainment from Entertainment Extra with Richard Crouse on In-Depth Radio, News Talk 1010.
Hey, movie lovers and citizens of Earth, welcome back to Extra Entertainment Extra. I'm Richard Crouse. Joining me in studio, Mitchell Kezin. He is the director of Jingle Bell Rocks. It is at the Bloor Cinema in Toronto right now. Also will be seen on TVO in the latter part of the month. Just as you're decorating the Christmas tree, just as you're putting up the tinsel, you'll be able to turn TVO on and check out Jingle Bell Rocks there. So check your local listings for exact times and dates. The film we touched on earlier was inspired by a song called The Little Boy That Santa Claus Forgot, or sort of inspired, that's the song that inspired your love of collecting. I alluded to the climax of the film, which there is a kind of catharsis for you. And I'm doing my best not to tell anyone what it is, because it's such a great moment in the movie that I think people should go see the movie and see it for themselves. But you wanted to add something more to that.
Yeah, you'd asked if that it must have been a highlight, and truly it was the biggest, most incredible and special moment I've had with a musical artist in my lifetime. Right. It came about completely out of the blue, like in most great documentaries. Something surprises you. We went to a record store in Brooklyn, and I found out something about that song that I didn't know, even though I'd researched that Nat King Cole song for years. And the film at that moment, and you see this in the movie, takes a complete left turn. Mm-hmm. And I meet this artist, and gosh, it was spending 4 days with him was just an incredible time. And truly takes the film to a whole other place. And I was so gratified that happened, because as I was saying to you off air a moment ago, I really wasn't sure how I was going to end the film until about a year ago.
Well, it's tough with a documentary. I mean, there's no end point, really. When you're telling a story that's kind of open-ended like this, I once asked Alan King, the great Canadian documentary filmmaker, how do you know when to end the movie? He says, well, when I run out of money, typically is when I end the films. Sure. Because, there isn't a period necessarily, right? And you found the period here.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, there were so many more songs I could have easily told the stories about. But at a certain point, you have to say, okay, and we've heard enough. We get it. There's a whole bunch of great songs out there and artists who care about them, and those are the folks I talk to. Yeah. And then it's time for a little more reflection and something that should hopefully affect people a little more deeply.
Did you read Dave Marsh's book on Christmas music?
I did. I was going to interview him, actually. Yeah. And we just couldn't make it work timing-wise. But I met him at South by Southwest and talked to him about the film.
As far as, smart looks at Christmas music goes, that's it.
That is
really.
It. I know.
In terms of books, that's about it.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah. When I tried to find out, I thought, well, when the idea first hit me, I thought, well, someone must have done this. Yeah. Okay, no, they haven't. Oh my God, this is great. I want to make a music doc. This is what I care about most. And then I thought, well, how can I find out more information? Mm-hmm. I want to find the details, and I couldn't. I had to go out and find them in the movie, basically.
Mitchell Kezin is my guest. He's the director of Jingle Bell Rocks. It's playing at the Bloor Cinema right now. So put on your Santa Claus suit, go down there and check it out. Also, it will be on TVO in and around the 20th of December. So check your local listings and your TV guide to get an exact time and date for that. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about Jingle Bell Rocks. I'm going to talk about some of the guests that you have in here. One of my favorite Christmas songs, Backdoor Santa, is well represented by Clarence Carter. You also have the Flaming Lips, Run-DMC. There's a lot of interesting guests from a lot of different kinds of genres of music here. So we'll talk about that when we come back on Extra Entertainment Extra.
They call me Backdoor Santa. I make my runs about the break of day.
You're listening to Entertainment Extra. Now more with movie critic Richard Crouse on In Depth Radio. News Talk 1010.
Hey, movie lovers and citizens of Earth, welcome back to Extra Entertainment Extra. I'm Richard Crouse. Joining me in studio, we have Mitchell Kezin. He is the director of Jingle Bell Rocks. It's playing at the Bloor Cinema in Toronto right now. So go down and check it out there. If you can't make it there for some reason, and movies, in my humble yet correct opinion, always better on the big screen. But if you can't make it down there, it's also going to be on TVO in and around the 20th of December somewhere. So check your local listings, your TV guide, and get an exact date and time for that. The movie is called Jingle Bell Rocks. It is a study of people who collect Christmas music. It's a study of your kind of obsession with Christmas music over the years from the time at which you were about 5 years old. We've discussed that in a couple of segments here. You have some amazing guests, though. John Waters is in here, who, of course, has put together Christmas compilations on CD. He does a Christmas show every year. But Clarence Carter. Clarence Carter was amazing. He did kind of a raunchy Christmas song called Backdoor Santa, which has been the basis of many songs to come afterwards. It's been used often in terms of rap songs and that sort of thing. Tell me about meeting him.
Truly a highlight of my life again. So many legendary artists I managed to wrangle into the movie. Bob Dorough is another one. Mm-hmm. And Clarence Carter was just the sweetest man ever. He he put together for the movie a little Christmas set. He was on a short tour. He's alongside a few other blues and R&B musicians who sort of do these short, small tours in the South. And I really, really wanted him in the film. I knew that he was still performing, so I hoped there would be some way we could get him to perform the song. Right. Again, classic Backdoor Santa. So he invited us down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we went into a casino and shot a performance that he gave where he played all his hits, Patches, and all the rest. But he also did a short Christmas set, and he performed Backdoor Santa for us specifically for the movie, and that footage is in the film. And I mean, meeting a legend, a soul legend like Clarence Carter was just something I never dreamed could happen for the film. But
on the flip side of that, you have Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips, who seemed to really grab the spirit of this whole thing and really sort of understand, I think, in a much deeper way than maybe some of the other guests. Some of your other people talk about the writings of the songs, but he really seemed to be into the spirit of what you were really trying to do with the film, I thought.
He did, and it surprised me when after I really, to be honest, left that interview, which was very, very late in the process of, we were halfway through a Rough Cut before we even met Wayne. It took a long time to reach him and to get to him, but I wouldn't have made the movie without him. Right. And he was, I didn't realize how remarkable he was until we watched the footage back. He was a lot more thoughtful and philosophical about the whole business of alternative Christmas music than I anticipated, although it makes sense because he wrote such a great Christmas song that the Flaming Lips recorded, A Change at Christmas, Say It Isn't So, one of my absolute favorites. So it was, again, another hero of mine to meet and have in the movie.
And he spoke about the film that the Flaming Lips made, and a really interesting sort of story around why that film came to be, which, again, you'll have to see the movie. We're running out of time. You're going to have to see the movie to understand what that story is, but it's really worth having a look. I liked seeing Elvez in there, and actually, I don't know that I've ever seen him interviewed before, so I was really interested to see what he had to say about it. John Waters, there's all sorts of people in here.
May I mention the Free Design are featured in the film, who most people don't know, but great band from the late 60s, led by Chris Dedrick, a fairly well-known Canadian composer of film and television who passed a few years ago. They have a fantastic Christmas record that is featured in the film. In
the final seconds of the show, best Christmas song and worst Christmas song for you?
Oh, God. I'd have to say Madonna's Santa Baby is the worst. And the best would be Bob Dorough's Blue Xmas.
I'll go with you on the best. The worst for me was the mall music. So Stars and 45 Christmas medley still haunts my dreams. Mitchell Kezin, thank you so much. The movie is called Jingle Bell Rocks at the Bloor Cinema as we speak, and it will be on TVO in a few weeks. Check out your local listings to make sure that you don't miss this film. It's really worth having a look at, particularly if you love Christmas music like I do. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate it.